All right, what's going on, everybody? We got another open bar as we continue this series on past figures in the red pill, manosphere, PUA space, and the things that we learned from them and how they laid the foundation to where we are today. And to revisit these because I think a lot of this stuff gets lost. And we've been finding recently that a lot of the information that's been lost is still so effective today. So I got Mr. Kevin here. Kevin Lewis, how you doing?
I'm doing great, sir. How are you?
Doing good. And then we got Josh, Renegade Wingman. How you doing?
Good. It was open bar today, so I decided, you know what, I can open up my bar and show that as the background. So excited to be here.
Oh, fantastic. And just a reminder, everybody, as we're getting started here, I will put the link in the chat. If you want to come on and you want to talk with us about this topic or you have any questions, by all means, you're more than welcome to. The link is right there in the chat. So hop on in, and then when we have a quick break in conversation, we'll bring you up and you can ask your question. So today, I love this one because this is somebody that not a lot of people really know about. There's a guy, he went by the online name Gambler, and his name is Richard La Ruina. He is dated back to the times of Mystery and Neil Strauss and when all of this stuff was getting started. And honestly, I think he's revered just as highly as those guys. He just went in a different direction, where you had Mystery going on to MTV with his show and Neil Strauss obviously working with Rolling Stone and being very much in the public eye. Richard wasn't so much that. But the information that Richard taught was unbelievable, and it completely transformed my life. It was some stuff that I already knew, but I needed a reminder on, and he was able to elevate it even further. Now, what Richard really teaches is, I guess we'll start with the forced IOIs. So just to define in PUA terms, an IOI is an indicator of interest. So let's say you're out at a bar and you look across the room and you see a pretty girl looking back at you and she smiles. That's a clear indicator of interest, and that is a hello, yes, you can come approach me. But one of the things that Richard teaches is forced IOIs. So in a completely nonverbal way, without saying anything, you can force that IOI and force an interaction. So Kevin, I know I just turned you on to Richard's stuff. What's been your understanding and experience with this forced IOI?
Well, I knew Gambler back in the day in the space, or knew of him. I don't know any of those guys personally, but I knew Gambler in the space back in, the early 2000s when it was all started going off. And I watched a video of him, and the guy's very articulate. And what I love about him bringing up the forced IOI, it's a great way to read the room. One that he talks about is if you got a drink, you're in a bar or social event, you can just walk around and just randomly cheers people, randomly cheers females, randomly cheers males. Don't do it in succession and make it so obvious, but you can get the forced IOI or forced disinterest just by the way they react to you walking up saying, cheers, how are you doing? If a girl gives you a smile and a wink and an enthusiastic cheer, that's a forced IOI, an indicator of interest. And that's what I took away from it. And it's genius in the fact that you're learning the room and learning the crowd, males and females around you, and how they're recepting to you without them knowing that you're forcing an IOI.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, personally, at the time that I found out about Richard, that wasn't until, that was probably 2017, and that was after coming through a bad breakup, and I personally needed to just sharpen my skills again, and I didn't have a lot of friends in the area. I was living at home with my parents, and so if I needed to go or if I wanted to go out, I had to go out alone. So this was like my going out solo days, and what I found so powerful about that, cheersing the room, you can create a fake sense of yourself as like a celebrity. Because you can go into a bar that night, not know anybody, and just by doing small interactions with everybody there, people remember you. And then once people remember you, like I can't tell you how many times I would then start talking to a girl later in the night. And then I would have one of those groups of people that I was talking to earlier come by and they're like, yo, Alex, and like give me like that dap up. And to the girl, she's like, you know everybody here. Like, what the heck? And it makes a world of difference. And that, Josh, I'm sure that you've experienced that as well. Like you're very well connected in your area, right?
I mean, an amazing firsthand story on that is that one of my best friends met his wife through that exact, leveraging that exact, I guess, and I don't want to say like tactic, but that exact thing, right? Where, he was going about and then he saw this girl that he just thought was like drop dead gorgeous. I was like, all right, walked right over and just walked up with I think he had a glass of champagne. He's just like, cheers, boom. Just started talking. And then, like about 2 years later, they wound up getting married. So, it was entertaining because it was at my birthday. So, we're out, we're being festive, and we're all hanging out. But, it's definitely one of those, the great thing about it is that it showcases one, your ability and confidence to really put yourself out there, because it takes, a complete set of confidence to really walk up to somebody that you don't know and just say, hey, here's a friendly little cheers or just a friendly little interaction that we're going to have right now. So that really does help showcase your level of confidence a long way. But then two, it's kind of going back to Kevin's early point. It's a very, very low risk type of gesture, right? And that's what's really, really key. So it's like high confidence / low risk. That's the really, really great position to be in.
Yeah, I can't think of it. I can't think of anything better. Like, and even because a lot of times guys get stuck with approach anxiety when they're going out, and even too when it comes to nightclubs, sometimes it's so loud it's difficult to have a conversation. So it's a nonverbal action that shows confidence, as you said, with very low risk. Like I don't know about you guys, if I'm investing in the stock market and I have something that is like it's basically gonna work out at very low risk, very valuable, very low risk, like I'm all in. I'm all for it. So I really think that it's one of the best things to, at least when it comes to that approach anxiety, at least what it does is it starts getting you in the flow of being more social. I think that it's talked about a lot in at least the pickup space, getting into that social flow. And this is an easy way to do that. Like when you first arrive somewhere, just doing stuff like that, just having fun. One of the ones that I love doing is I love to do the high five, not so much the cheers the drink, but I love the high five. Like I'll just walk up to somebody that never met before and like, hey, and then boom. And it's been fantastic. And guys and girls alike love it. And it just opens that door.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too, the high five, because, we talk about a lot of nightclubs and bars, but I know some of our members don't even drink. So they're not going to put themselves in that situation. But say if you're like in an outdoor venue, like me and Josh were recently in Dallas, there's a lot of walking around, just people interacting with no drinks. Yeah, you can do that. If a girl walks by that you think's cute, just hold your hand up, high five. Sometimes, a lot of times they'll do it, but you can gauge their indicator of interest on how they do it. If they look at you and smile and give you an enthusiastic one, you might, if you see her later on, you might be able to go up and talk to her. If she just kind of flatly doesn't look like it's weird, that's a indicator of disinterest, but that's okay. You haven't lost anything at that point. And even like it works with guys as well. As you're walking out, hey, high five. So it doesn't always have to be cheers and a drink. You can use little things like that to gauge the atmosphere and the climate of the people that you're around at that time.
Yeah, and what's great about that too is that you get a chance to kind of showcase a little bit of your fun side, because a large thing that gets guys held up in their own heads is that they think like, oh my gosh, everybody's out here like doing their own thing, like whatever, and they really just don't, they want to be like in their own little worlds. But in reality, when you see a lot of people out and you start noticing a lot of this type of stuff, you start realizing like most people when they're out, they're actually bored. Like they're either just trying to like people watch, or they're like all kind of just on their phones, like all hanging out. But most of the time they're just kind of like bored, just kind of left to their own thoughts. So when you come in and introduce a little spark into that atmosphere, suddenly you get the gears going, not only for yourself, but for everybody else. So it kind of becomes like this little contagious wildfire. And so when you're known as that spark, right, or in the interaction, right, you can be that spark. It's a really great way to judge, one, where everyone's at, where they're like, hey, are we in a good mood? And we really, we're just waiting for a spark to really start going crazy and having fun. Or, we're just out, but we're, really closed off. We're just not in the mood for anything. So it gives you get that sense of being able to read people a lot better. But then when you really do become that spark and it starts getting yourself a little bit out of your own shell, but you start realizing that, other people, you're getting them out of theirs as well. That's a really, really powerful and incredible tool that will, be added into your own personal tool belt. That even, again, if you're the most introverted person whatsoever, again, just a simple little cheers and a couple people going like, oh yeah, cheers, man. Like, you having a great time? Sometimes you just have a little spark of cheers and then they carry the interaction from there. That's all they needed, was just that little spark. So, these are, again, really, really great tools where no matter where you are, if you're an introvert or an extrovert, it's just a little small thing in there that can be a spark that leads to something bigger. Where, again, if you're a hardcore introvert, you just get you get the extroverts going, and then great, they're roping you along. They're your new best friends or whatever. But you don't have to be the one that's like carrying the conversation or any of this other type of stuff. You're just sparking the conversation, right? So think of it that way, where, hey, you're just creating a little bit of a spark. But yeah, if you want to be the one that fans all the flames and carries the fire, great, but you don't necessarily have to carry the torch the whole time.
Right. Absolutely. It's crazy because like I knew a lot of this stuff, and then it wasn't until I really looked into his work that that was like the refined version of it. So even in college, like I would do this type of stuff all the time. And oh my God, I went on so many ridiculous adventures. Hell, I forced an IOI not too long ago when I went to Maryland. I was in Baltimore, and whatever they call it there, the inlet, the bay, whatever, what is it called exactly?
Is that harbor down there?
The harbor. So we're on our way to a bar, and then I see some guy in a little raft. I think I may have told this story before, but I see a guy in a little raft with like one small speaker, and he's just chilling out. And I don't know what came over me, but I just came over and something stupid. I mean, I said something stupid. It wasn't nonverbal, but it was still a forced IOI to initiate a spark. And then what do you know, 10 minutes later, I'm in the middle of the harbor in this little boat with this dude, like complete darkness around me, wearing like a life jacket. Like, what the hell is going on? And he starts lighting up a J to smoke some weed. And then he makes a joke about killing me. And then I got really uncomfortable. But it was beautiful, I have to say. And then he brought us back to his houseboat. And I had my girlfriend and my buddy come meet us in the private community. And then we just had a quick little hour party on this houseboat, all because I just like forced the interaction over something small. And then I let him carry it the rest of the way. That was it.
Yeah, and again, this is how you can start having adventures or having like, really just interesting stories, right? Or, if you're trying to, be in the dating world, right? It's very much that sort of fairy tale kind of story that you're, constructing, right? Where it's just like, oh yeah, just saw this, beautiful girl from across the room, just walked up and then said cheers. And then that sparked a conversation that wound up leading. Because the interesting, funny thing about my friend was that the girl didn't even live in the same city. Like, she lived across the country. So wound up, flying. She was out there visiting friends. So he wound up flying out there to hang out with her. She wound up flying out here to hang out with him. And so it was a little back and forth. And then she moved all the way out. And then, but again, that incredible story never would have happened if, he didn't just walk up and just go, oh, hey, cheers, So it's amazing how just a small little spark can lead to something pretty grand.
Yeah. And I think those small little steps can help you on your journey from getting behind the apps, putting the phone down, getting out there with intention on just practicing. and not just getting to know females that you want to date, learning the IOIs, and kind of getting back into what we call organic, meeting in person and learning how to meet people and make friends. And, everybody's so stuck up on the apps right now, especially young men, and not just dating apps. You guys know what the apps I'm talking about. Starts with Only. This weekend, I wouldn't call it a date. I was just hanging out with a girl that I just recently met, and she's a dancer. And she talked about how slow it has gotten in the last year or so. And I asked her, I said, well, that is maybe that because of the area that you're in? Or she said, no, I feature all up and down the East Coast, and it's slow everywhere. And she brought up a great point. The reason why is because you've got the sites of companionship, not just Tinder and Hinge. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Starts with Only. And a lot of guys are getting stuck in that world that used to be the strip clubs before the internet, because the guys that were afraid to walk up in girls in real life, they would go to a gentleman's club and they would get all the attention they needed from women. Now, it never went anywhere, but now it has moved to that space, which is even more dangerous, I think, for males and females. Because how many of us have seen the YouTube videos of women complaining that men don't approach them anymore? And the excuse is MGTOW, women are trash, that kind of stuff. Then that's where I don't like where the space is going, where the space was 10 or 15 years ago. Hey, we know how to do this stuff. We're going to teach you, and you can go out in the field and learn this stuff. And now young men don't have that anymore.
Right. And that's why, when you brought up Richard's work, Alex, it's, kind of a very fun little lost archive, or like a lost art, where it's like you rediscover some ancient like text that's like, oh my gosh, like this still works in the modern era of science. Because what's great about his work is that, he really documented a lot of the practical day-to-day fundamentals that are timeless. So they work in the time of social media, they work in the time post social media, they work in the time before social media. So it's more about those practical day-to-day steps, where that's where a lot of the original PUA guys got a lot of that original game stuff very wrong, or very time period specific, was because social media hadn't been invented, and that radically changed and shifted the entire dating space. And so
wait, hold on, you're telling me that peacocking isn't timeless?
It can be. It can be, but the way in which you go about peacocking, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, Josh, because you're in LA. It's a different, and you also, Alex, you're in Philly. I live in the suburbs of Raleigh. Now, if I walked into any of these watering holes around here with a boa, a top hat, and some 6-inch pilot goggles on top of it, I don't think it'd work, but it may still work in the big cities. But I wouldn't recommend that. There's a different type of peacocking nowadays, is just dressing sharp, just dressing different than most other people. Me and Kestrel talked about that, because we went to we were going to go to a wine bar, but she was pressed for time, and I didn't really want to drive. It was hot as hell. And so we went to a local place here that I go to quite a bit. And we were looking around, and all the couples, they all look the same. All the guys at the bar all look the same. So if you can peacocking nowadays is just being a little bit unique from the people next to you. It doesn't have to be boas and fur vests with no shirt on underneath, that kind of stuff. It may still work in LA or Philly, but it would not work here in Raleigh.
Oh, yeah,
Here's a good example for you of kind of what that would look like. So typically I'll just wear stuff like this. And honestly, a lot of times I just kind of wear very casual clothes, not show offy, but I do like to dress well, and I have a lot of nice clothes to do so. So I just went to a wedding a couple weeks ago, and what I ended up wearing is like, I still wanted to remain casual. So I had jeans, like a darker blue jeans. And then the shirt I was wearing, I've worn it on a stream before. It's like a light blue corduroy type of thing. And I actually have light blue sneakers as well that match, same color. And then wearing my suit coat. And then I have a watch that is a silver watch with a blue dial. So right there, I'm just standing out. Everybody's wearing suits because it's it's a wedding, but I'm standing out because I have a matching blue color theme that's going through the entire outfit, and of course it's well fitting.
Yeah. And yeah, that's the notion of peacocking, right, is more about standing out. And I think, to his credit, right, he said, like, hey, look, I can get away with the feather boa on the hat and whatever, as an extreme example of what can be done. And you have to, one of the things that I would give the early gay guys credit is that they said, like, kind of know your audience, right? So, doing that in, the middle of South Carolina may get you run out of town, but, in LA, it could work in certain spots. It could work really drastically wrong in other spots, right? So, if you go to, say, like, a nightclub in a more, rougher part of LA, and you're decked out like that, you could be inviting some trouble. But if you're at a fashion event and now all of a sudden you're making a statement, it can work out really well. So, then to build on Alex's point, I've very similar vein. I have a very nice, tailored suit that's a very nice shade of turquoise. So it definitely stands out quite prominently. But, it's a very good way if everyone just comes up like, oh, man, that's a really great color. Or that color looks really, really awesome. That's a really dope suit. So, there are ways in which you can, accentuate yourself and show off or showcase or stand out while keeping it within some, bounds of, either dressing well or being a little bit more like refined with it. But with certain, circumstances, you can go a little bit extreme about it, because it kind of is like the old mantra, right? It doesn't really matter what they say about you as long as they spell your name right. So the whole point and purpose of it, right, is to get the attention. Now, what kind of attention you're getting, that's where you want to do some fine tuning, because you can get the wrong kind of attention, which can really backfire. But if you can parlay that into the right kind of attention, well, now you could be someone of interest.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, for me, I got a rule: if the sun's down and I'm going out, I'm going to have a sport coat with me at least, and I'm going to walk in wearing it. I've got about 7, and it's usually with a nice pair of jeans or a nice pair of slacks. They don't match like a suit, but for me, in the suburbs of Raleigh, and even in Raleigh, since Raleigh is a college town, it's more of a hipster type vibe downtown. I will always set myself apart from them. And then, something as little as a ring, shark tooth necklace, to me, that is especially for a man my age, that is peacocking in a sense, because I am going to set myself apart than 95% of the people that I walk in there. And I do notice that you do get attention from women, young and old, the same, when you do look a little bit different. However, if you go overboard, you get the wrong type of attention from both males and females.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. My final thought before we transition to the final topic, before we got to jump. Yeah, I got complimented on my outfit. How many times, like, Josh, I know it happens to you all the time, but like, how many times do guys really get complimented on their outfits? And it feels good, and it even elevates you further. So definitely something to think about. I like your style, Josh. I love your style, Kevin. Everybody's got their own. You just have to figure it out. And that's something that we can help you with as well. I know we've done shows on style before. And if that's something you guys are interested in, definitely comment down below and let us know to dive more into it. Also, we do have to speed up here just because we have our private men's group coming up right after this, the Men of Now community. So if you are interested in joining that, you can check the link below. Right in the description of this video, or you can reach out to any of us on Instagram, and we will go ahead and get that set up for you, because it's been crazy to see the evolution that some of these guys have been going through. But the last thing that I wanted to talk about is the power of nonverbal communication outside of like the cheers and things like that. And one of those that I really took from Richard was the power of the eyes. So back in like 2020, when everybody was locked up, I didn't let that stop me. And I did use the dating apps to get a lot of those dates. And so on those dates, I really mastered the ability to communicate really with my eyes. And even if it's just as simple as like sitting across the table from a girl, and you guys are you're just talking, and then you're just smirking and looking at her, and maybe doing the triangle, which Kevin, I'll have you explain. But looking at her eyes, looking at her mouth, and just not saying anything with a smirk, you're essentially putting the idea in her head that you're thinking about something that she doesn't know. And naturally, because it's man to woman, she thinks sexual. So then when you're doing something like that, and obviously don't be creepy about it, and it takes practice to master, she'll inevitably ask you, like, what are you thinking about? Like, what? And it's like, oh, nothing. I'm just thinking about you. It's like,
Yeah.
what about me? And then it drives the imagination wild. And it really, it wasn't until learning a lot more of that from Richard's work that I would say that I've become a master at it. Like there was, like, I kind of understood it, but it wasn't until really internalizing and practicing it that it was like, oh my God, this is a superpower. And it basically, like, I never didn't close on the first night anymore, which is kind of a wild claim to make. But within the pickup space, I mean, that's a pretty good ROI of my time. So
Oh,
what
yeah.
is the triangle though, Kevin? Because I don't know if we touched on that fully.
No, when it comes to basic eye contact, when you're talking with a female and the conversation is going to something other than normal chit chat, if you're talking about something serious, the triangle is very simple. Your right eye to her right eye, 3 to 5 seconds. Then your left eye to her left eye for 3 to 5 seconds. And then her lips, both your eyes to her lips for 3 to 5 seconds. And you continue that as you're talking. And don't look away when you start talking. When you keep talking or she's talking, you keep doing it. And you can see how her eye contact will definitely remain on you. If it doesn't, that's not a indicator of disinterest, but it means she's thinking about something. But eye contact is one of the most powerful tools we have in conversation, man to man. And if you learn how to master that, you will be light years ahead of your competition. I'll go ahead and say it, of anybody else that she's dating. She's going to remember that he didn't take his eyes off me, and not in a creepy way, but remember the triangle. I just explained it. Rewind it if you need to hear it again, because we've only got 2 minutes, but we're going to go further into this because as we're working up to what we're going, Richard Gambler has a great method and a way to have something in the back of your head when you're ready to go in for the kiss. Slow and smooth, everything you got, and how to escalate the kino. And we're going to have to talk about that next week because we're out of time here today, guys.
Yeah, this can go so deep, and I really want to get into it more. A lot of the deeper stuff and more advanced stuff I want to save for the members behind the paywall.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, dude, I swear, Richard completely changed my life once I understood everything he was talking about. And there's levels. Like the triangle is the most basic, and that comes from mystery, right?
I can't remember where I learned that from, but
Okay.
I've known it for a long time. And it may have came from back in the PUA days, or maybe I just, figured, but I've known it. Guys, I'm 45 years old. I'm not going to just say I'm an old man anymore. I've known this since my early 20s. So that's where I found out. That's about when the PUA guys and the manosphere started to form. So yeah, maybe it was from one of those guys. But if nobody's taught it to you now, you're welcome. And I feel bad that you haven't gotten the information you've needed up to this point.
Yeah, and I'll share with the guys when we go behind the scenes to the Zoom call, kind of the more advanced levels to that, because that's the basics, and then there's like other ways you can do it to really like kind of force the interaction to go whatever direction you want it to. It's pretty damn cool, and I got some fun stories. Well,
Yeah,
Josh,
if you're learning on stream, it's going to be drinking from a fire hose. So,
yeah.
Get in with our group, and we'll teach you everything that we know. And if you can't make it there, then nobody can help you, brother.
Yeah,
not being conceited,
exactly.
but
Josh, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, my last thoughts are just around that, for especially on the triangle subject. I do have a little bit of a master technique behind it that will rapidly accelerate the quality of your interactions. But again, you got to be part of the group to get access to that. So, those of you guys that are out there, I mean, just, interested in leveling up, your fitness, your finance, or just your overall lifestyle, hey, come reach out to us. We'd love to have you in there, because again, we always love working with guys that are just continuously looking to improve. So that's my final thought is, if you're not in, get in.
Absolutely. Heck yeah. All right, let's go hop on over there. Good as always.
You guys
Have a good one, guys. See ya.